Welcome back to another mix comparison episode here on the Working Audio Tools podcast with myself, Ed Thorne, and fellow co-host and fellow YouTuber and mix engineer Paul Third up there in Scotland. Last week we did a video on imposter syndrome, but 2 weeks ago we had Mark and James from Present Day Productions on the channel. We talked extensively about Atmos and also got their philosophy on mastering, which was very insightful for both of us and everyone who listened, I'm sure. In that episode, I also presented them with a mix of a track that those guys recorded and produced in their studios over in Epping called I Can't Stop. And needless to say, they weren't particularly impressed with my mix, which was a bit hard to take. They were quite brutal with the criticism, but both Paul and I agreed with said criticism. And instead of getting despondent, I took the opportunity to go away, remix the track, which I did in Logic this time. I've basically moved away from Pro Tools for mixing Paul, back to Logic, because I just couldn't stand the workflow in Pro Tools. I'm using Pro Tools for mastering, and I really like it for that. But for mixing, I'm so quick in Logic. There's a couple of things that annoy me, but there were way more things that annoyed me in Pro Tools. So I've gone away, stripped it back, barely done any processing, left off loads of compressors, and I was quite happy with the result. We're going to hear from Mark from Present Day Production later, who kindly recorded a little video for us to give us his thoughts on my mix. Paul has also done his mix, so we're going to be doing a comparison right now. And Paul's had some feedback from Mark as well off air. So these are the two final mixes that we have arrived on. Paul, what were the challenges for you on this song?
The production. It's the hardest. It's the hardest production I've ever had because I've never had to mix a song where I didn't feel like it had a set production because we didn't have a rough to work on. We didn't have their mix until the very, very end. So all I knew was from your feedback like 2 weeks ago was it needs energy and I want everything to poke out and I want everything to like this comes in at this point and that comes in at that point. And you know, I don't see that as a mixer's job. So I was a little bit frustrated by the whole process because I feel that a good producer should be able to get the arrangement the way they want it. And again, and I think that's what happens with a lot of mix engineers is that when they receive it, the production's pretty, like you've got the rough and the production is like set up to work with the rough. So you don't have to manually have to try and do it yourself. So I found that quite difficult because it is a mix that you have to fight and it's a battle. I genuinely, I've never had a mix that's such an uphill battle. And I felt like I was fighting with everything. I was fighting with the trumpets. I was fighting with the strings because at certain points the strings work louder, but they don't work. And the strings clash with the trumpets. And then they've got the synth bass that comes in and it's trying to find the right level for that to sit in with the bass that's already there. And we'll talk about the snare sound in detail, obviously, because I really struggled with the snare. And I think fair, me and Ed have been talking about a few things. I think I'm going to learn something today because I think I did something and I think Ed's kind of went, I think that's why this sounds so different. So yeah, I think the first mix I did, it was a bit difficult because I tried something different on the vocals. Why? Everybody loves my vocals. I tried something, ended up being overly saturated in the high mids. Mark noticed that and he was like, right, okay, I would sort that out. I think his feedback first on the first mix was it's better than Ed's very first mix and it's kind of the most radio-ready mix we've had submission-wise. However, It needs more low-end energy and essentially you just need to add more energy to it, which essentially meant the drums are too quiet, which means that the bass was too quiet. So I was pushing the mix a lot. I was trying to get like the brightness and the mids in there, but because I was focusing so much on the instruments, I lost the punch. I lost the energy because I was so focused on these instruments. And then I tried to reverse it. And then so the drums were back loud again. The bass was loud. And then it was maybe slightly a bit too loud. Then the instruments weren't loud enough. And it was one of those where I lost the perspective at the very start of the mix. And then you add that on top of the production. I never ever want to hear that mix again. Because I've got trauma from it, just honestly trying to get the snare to sound right and then trying to add a sample and then no, the sample, it sounds too triggered and stuff. Oh mate, it's a hard one. A lot of experiences though, How did you get on second time around? Did you feel that because you'd done it the first time and you had the feedback that it was a little bit easier for you to kind of go with what you kind of felt needed to be done?
I have to admit, I started second time and I was hating it, but then basically that feedback actually coincided with my plan for my next mix, which we discussed in, I think, the episodes before that, of no bus compression, minimal compression, and just let everything breathe. So my plan for the next mix that I was going to do was always that, and then it just so happened that it was this remix. So I went in with a fresh perspective I was wanting to try, and very quickly I was hearing it worked, and the mix came together in about 4 hours, second time round, from scratch, including setting up the session. And then I did another couple of hours on it yesterday before I submitted it to Mark and James to hear. And it was a much more enjoyable experience second time round, a much more enjoyable result. It was quicker. So yeah, I think we've both had a lot of important learnings this week.
Ladies and gentlemen, thems and theys, whatever you want to be called, this is Ed Thorne's remix of I Can't Stop.
There's a man I know who can get you things. He's the kind of guy who always says what he means. He'll give you your dreams. Is the handbrake tied? Are your headlights on? Is there anyone who could be watching you dig that hole? It's easier on your own. Dirt still on my fingertips, deeper and deeper. I could learn to live with this. I'm a believer. Make my friends uncomfortable. It's so much sweeter to keep it all together. I should have known better. I can't stop fixing all the flaws you've got. I can't stop pretending that it's me on top. There's a girl outside, standing in the rain. Can't see your face, but she knows your name. She'll give you your dreams. Dirt still on my fingertips, deeper and deeper. I could learn to live with this. I'm still a dreamer. Sacrifice my dignity. It's so much better to separate my feelings, pretend what I believe in. I can't stop fixing all the flaws you've got. I can't stop pretending that it's me on top. Dirt still on my fingertips, deeper and deeper. I could learn to live with this. I'm still a make my friends uncomfortable. It's so much sweeter to keep it all together. I should have known better. I can't stop fixing all the flaws you've got. I can't stop pretending that it's me on top.
I would say that it is a very, very, very big improvement. I think that you've got the energy, you've got the drums, you've got the low end. The kick is really nice and like doop, 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 doop. It's got a nice thud to it, a nice bit of punch. And I think instrument-wise, you did a really good job on the instruments. It's again, I could hear your mix and I could hear trumpets loud, trumpets quiet, strings like quiet. And there's a lot of automation going on. But I can tell that you've worked a lot on the energy, the punch. I can hear you've worked on the drums. And again, the bass is well controlled. I think the vocals really nice, really smooth. Again, to me, it just sounds like the way a vocal should sound. I think the strings sound quite nice. Backing vocals, I like. I think you did the backing vocals better than me, in my opinion. The snare, right, okay. I don't like, but it's not because of you. I've realised it's because I just don't like the fucking... I just don't like the snare. I just don't like the snare at all. Like, when I first got it, I was like, I hate this. I was like, straight away, I was like, I really don't like this at all. I just wasn't a snare that I liked. And straight away, I was like trying to sample it and basically take it out of the equation straight away. And then when I heard, okay, both of yours mixes, I was like, yeah, this is never going to go down well, because obviously, like, Mark knew that was the snare sound and you'd kind of stuck to it. And I say, but then what is it? Right, what did you do to the snare? Because I could hear, kind of verb did you add to it? Because I could hear there's a tail on it, but it's like I couldn't get the same tail as you. Like, what did you do there?
So I know what you mean about the snare. I didn't warm to it immediately upon hearing it. It's not necessarily a snare sound I like as a drummer, and not a sound I play with myself. But I didn't even consider sampling it, because I just thought that it's such a specific kit sound that has been well recorded. I just thought I'm going to embrace that and run with it. So there's a bit of compression on it. It's going through my Sam Audio 76A5, which is quite nice on snare. It's not doing much, maybe 2 dB of compression, but it's just helping the sustain, because I've got quite a slow attack and quite a quick release, so there's a bit of sustain added there. Then there's short reverb in R2. What is it, 0.3 of a second, or point?
Oh, so it's R. So you're using R2 for the snares now?
I'm using R2 on basically everything.
Right. Okay.
It's just an incredibly versatile reverb plugin. I'm not using my analog reverb for those wanting to have a pop about 500 series gear. I might sell that, but I just...
What a great investment.
Flawless. I've used it on 5 mixes. And then there's a longer reverb, and then there's also a reverb on the entire kit. So there's technically 3 on the snare drum.
The only thing I would say, right, that I'm still not that much of a fan of is the bass in regards to the tightness of it. I think that the kick's tight, but I think the bass could be tighter. I think it kind of, there's times where it kind of masks the mid-range a little bit. And I think that's feels a little bit why I think the instrumentation is so loud at certain parts, because I think that maybe the way you've heard it is that, like, this isn't coming through, so I need to add the volume in, because I think the low end is kind of cluttering the mid-range a little bit. It's not anything, I think it's more nitpicky for me. I heard it in the car. So in my car, like, it's really boomy and it's really bassy, and I don't touch the EQ in it because I like it as a good test. And in the car, I could hear that the bass was getting a little bit swampy. And then the subs, I think, like, the subs could maybe be a little bit better managed. But the thing that is going to cause a little bit of a debate here is, what I find interesting about this mix especially is that, see, when I listen to it on my speakers and I listen to it on decent real phones, the mix makes so much sense. All of a sudden I go, this mix makes sense. But see, when I listen to it on headphones, I don't think it translates. And I think that's why I've been struggling so much with Mark's mix and your mix. Because I'm a headphone mixer predominantly, I know what mixes should sound like on headphones. So I'm obviously trying to go for tons of translation everywhere. And I think what I hear in those 2 mixes is that it's not translating well to headphones. And it was only until today where I was like, actually, I'll put Ed's mixes through the speakers, so the Kali INUNFs, and I'll put them through real phones and all the different emulations they've got, which is, like, with these, like, super, super realistic. And I was like, this mix makes total sense now. I was like, I could actually tell the decisions he made. But to me, you need to find an average. That would be my opinion. Because obviously the argument would be what we're thinking. Like, everybody's listening to AirPods now. Everybody's on fucking headphones. My worry is that on the speakers, yes. The Callies, yes. Sounds great, amazing. Probably wouldn't change anything. I think it sounds absolutely great. But there's something to me in the speaker translation on all of my headphones, and it only works on this when I listen to decent earphones. I'm like, makes sense. Speakers make sense. On headphones, there's something in the bass where I feel like, again, the snare sounds like it's really sat back. But see, on speakers, the snare sounds right. And on all my headphones, it's like, this sounds weird. It's like I think it's maybe where the bass is starting to cloud everything. The bass seems like it's almost like there's a separation. It's like the bass does this on headphones, and then like the mids just kind of sit a little bit back. You can still hear the vocal and stuff, but there's this separation. You would have to hear it in my head and on my setup to understand. And this is what's frustrating for me is that it's difficult for me to explain it because you need to hear it, and then you would maybe listen to my setup and go, yeah, I don't hear it. I do, and I think you would because you're such a speaker man. And I know Mark doesn't mix on headphones. You're all speaker men. That if you were to listen to my setup, I would wonder in the harmon and the topping if you would think, this doesn't sound like the way I want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I referenced it on my HD 490s and Neumann NDH30s, and nothing popped out. I mean, I literally had one listen through, and I was like, cool, sounds fine. And then listened on my Anchor Soundcore bar thing, which sounds terrible. What's the point of it? And then I made a couple of adjustments after hearing it on that, which is kind of indicative of mobile phone and laptop speakers. And then once it was in that ballpark, I just trusted the speakers with it. So, yeah, I'll have another listen.
Yeah, that's the only thing, and I can't. It's annoying because I can't really tell you what it is that I hear. So, but I do. There is, like, we know that there is this kind of thing where the average of speakers and headphones, it's a difficult thing. I think I've managed to get good translation on my mix. It was just that Ed's mix was doing things that my mix should have been doing. And that's what Mark was kind of the feedback was, that I learned a lot from Ed's mix because it kind of was a recalibration. As you know what we'll do, we'll just listen to mine because I'm just talking about it and I've not even let anybody fucking hear it yet. Jesus Christ. But yeah, Ed, great job. And before we listen to my mix, most importantly, this is why I'm so happy to make this episode. Here is Mark's feedback. So for anybody that has not watched the PDP episode, the present day production episode, Mark was a little bit, people would say harsh. I'd just say he was brutally honest, and he told Ed exactly what he thought, and we agreed on it. It was a bit of a stung like a bitch to begin with, but I think Ed's taken it on board, and just to kind of show everybody here why it's okay to be completely honest with people, and Ed's going to be living proof here that he has taken it and he's humble enough to go back and say, I'm going to do it again. I'm not going to leave it. I'm not going to go in the cream puff. I am a good engineer, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to see if I could almost treat Mark as a client and get the mix to where it needs to be. So without further ado, let me pass it on to Mark from Present Day Production.
Hi guys, sorry for the crappy phone video. I thought it's just easier, doesn't need colour grading and all that nonsense. Thanks for sending your mixes through. Let's talk about Ed's first. So we've had, I think, something like 40 or 50 mixes through from people of this song now. When we heard yours last week, Ed, or the week before, I'll be completely honest with you, it was one of the worst. And I think there's various reasons for that. One is our fault. We didn't communicate as a client, if you like, what we wanted from the mix. You were doing it in a DAW you weren't familiar with, which, is always a nightmare. But what you've done now is you've taken our feedback, you've absolutely ran with it, and your mix is now the best of all of them that we've had, as far as I'm concerned. It's just at the top. It sounds like a professional has mixed it. It's really, really, really good. I'm really impressed with the transformation between mix 1 and mix 2. Yes, there's some tiny little things that, maybe as a client would ask for a revision on, but they're tiny, nitpicky little things that actually no one gives a shit about. And it's all, as we said before, it's about the energy and it's about the emotion that it extracts out of you. And me and James have been listening to it in here, and we just wanted to crank it up and dance around the room and then listen to it again. And that is exactly what we need from the mix of this song. Ed, you have nailed it. You've taken our feedback on board and you've absolutely nailed it. Exceptional stuff.
DistroKid sponsor the Working Audio Tools podcast, and you can get 30% off your first year's subscription using the VIP link in the YouTube video description and podcast show notes. DistroKid makes distribution of your music easy with unlimited uploads, and you get to keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. Join over 1 million artists who rely on DistroKid to get their music into Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all other streaming platforms now and in the future. The new DistroKid app is available on iOS. Go and download it from the App Store now. From here, you can upload new releases. You can see your DistroKid earnings and withdraw these earnings. You can view and share your hyperfollow links. You can check your streaming statistics from Spotify and Apple, and even add and edit lyrics and song titles. So keep track of your releases on the move with the new DistroKid app, available on iOS. Download it from the App Store now.
Right, Ed, how does it feel after the last time to get that feedback? To have Mark say to you, this is the best submission, that it's better than his mix. Like, it's the best submission so far that he's heard. How does that feel going from where you were to where you are now? How does that feel?
It's a relief. I mean, as I said in the Imposter episode last week, it crossed my mind that maybe Mark and James had written me off as a mix engineer and just thought, he's rubbish. And I'm glad they haven't. That's the biggest relief, I think. The fact that they're fellow professionals whose ears and careers I admire, who have taken the time to give us feedback and then genuinely been very happy with the results. So yeah, it feels good, but I'll be honest, I kind of knew I was onto a good thing when I was doing it second time round. It just came together so quickly. Now, you know, then the gremlins at the back of my mind, thinking of imposter syndrome again, are thinking, that's a fluke, do that again. Knowing that I've got to do a mix that's causing me loads of problems tomorrow. Yeah. But it definitely lifted my spirits after the other week. So thank you, Mark, for that wonderful feedback.
Yeah, and again, I'd just like to thank Mark for his time. And again, look, internet is internet, and some people are going to say, he's just said that because like I got people were saying stuff in the comments. He's not. Anybody that's met Mark, he's an honest, straight off the wall chap.
Yeah.
If he likes it, he likes it. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
Yeah.
But, and for anybody asking, where's Paul's video? I didn't really want a video. I took the feedback and I was like, right, okay, I'll take that feedback. I've listened to Ed's mix. I kind of know. Really, I treated Ed's mix like a rough. Really, I was like, that's like where
like a rough, whatever.
No, but you know what I mean. It's like the way I see a rough, but it's like that's where the client wants it. If we see Mark as a client, that's what he wants. That's it. Can you take that and make that really any better? Now, what I've done in my mix is. Why I didn't really, I don't think like getting feedback from Mark now is probably beneficial to me is because I've purposely taken a different direction. So I know what like he wants, right? I know what he likes, but I was like, well, I want to take it in a different direction. So I wanted to kind of take my mix and make it a little bit like a modern kind of Dua Lipa style. Obviously, I'm not fucking Spike Stent and other people that do Dua Lipa, and this isn't a Dua Lipa production, but I wanted to have a modern sound, so I listened to a few Dua Lipa tracks and I listened specifically the low end so I could get the energy right that I was lacking in the first mix.
The bass she gets on her tracks is unbelievable.
Fucking incredible.
Unbelievably tight performance and sound.
Yep. And so I've obviously listened to that and then tried to do my own kind of version of it in my own way.
That makes sense hearing it, actually, because you said I had a tight kick and a not so tight bass, whereas I think you've done it the other way around. Tight bass, not so tight kick. Anyway, let's hear it, and then we can go into more details and slag each other's snare sound off again.
There's a man I know who can get you things. He's the kind of guy who always says what he means. He'll give you your dreams. live with this. I'm a believer, make my friends uncomfortable. It's so much sweeter to keep it all together. I should have known better. I can't stop fixing all the flaws you've got. I can't stop pretending that it's me on top. There's a girl outside, standing in the rain. Can't see your face, but she knows your name. She'll give you your dreams. Dirt still on my fingertips, deeper and deeper. I could learn to live with this. I'm still a dreamer, sacrifice my dignity. It's so much better to separate my feelings, pretend what I believe in. I can't stop fixing all the flaws you've got. I can't stop pretending that it's me on top. Dirt still on my fingertips, deeper and deeper. I could learn to live with this. I'm still a make my friends uncomfortable. It's so much sweeter to keep it all together. I should have known better. I can't stop fixing all the flaws you've got. I can't stop pretending that it's me on top.
All right, so Paul's third mix of I Can't Stop, definitely a different direction, but having heard your previous mix, you've dialed some things back, which is good. I think that you've brought it more in line with the taste and style needed for the genre, I think. You've definitely got a good energy overall on this. The vocals sound good, typical Paul third. A couple of things were slightly bothering me though. I wonder if the vocal energy was stifled by too much compression.
Okay.
And there's a follow-up comment to that which I wrote down, which was, so the mix overall, there's a lot of energy in the sides. There's loads going on obviously with the orchestration and the production. But what you've got mix-wise energetically, there's a lot going on in the sides as well. But the middle seems to be more controlled. I almost wondered if you had like a center channel compressor going on, which kind of maybe affected the vocals to just be very, very controlled and maybe not quite as dynamic as the rest of the instrumentation.
Know what? I think this is where it kind of comes into subjectivity, I suppose, because
now,
obviously,
just to interrupt, sorry, this might be a speaker versus headphone translation.
Right, okay.
I haven't actually checked it on speakers, my bad. Sorry, headphones, my bad.
For me, I always kind of put quite a bit of compression into my vocals. This one in particular.
Normally it works. For the pop production, normally that sound is bang on. I think it was the contrast of so much stuff going on elsewhere made the vocals sound controlled.
It's a difficult one because I just always see like bass, kick, vocal. They're just like control, just get that thing controlled. And again, I was listening to like Dua Lipa references and stuff, and I'm listening. Like again, her vocals are like pretty clamped. Like they are like compressed heavily on the way in, and probably Spike probably does do quite a bit of compression afterwards as well. I'm trying to understand like how you're hearing it, and I can understand if the whole mix is a completely dynamic thing, then I suppose you are wanting that dynamics. But I can see what you're saying.
I've got an idea. The beauty of editing means I can go and listen to it on headphones and then immediately come back. So why don't we queue up an advert about DistroKid? I'll listen to the headphone mix, and then we'll come back and carry on talking.
Right, okay.
DistroKid hosts a range of visually engaging social media promotion tools to help your release stand out from the crowd. Creative and colourful social media cards incorporate your artwork to help your release stand out. These are free to download and can be highly effective promoting your release. DistroKid also offer mini videos, which are free, short, customizable videos incorporating your artwork and a short clip of your track. And if this wasn't enough, DistroKid also have a tool to create a Spotify canvas generator, which is the video that plays in the background when you're playing a song on Spotify. Simply choose a theme and choose from dozens of different creative artwork concepts. These are free to use and great for engaging your audience, available on DistroKid. For an additional subscription of $8.25 a month, you can get your music videos distributed to Apple Music, Vivo, and Tidal, and you'll keep 100% of your royalties. With DistroVid from DistroKid.
All right, and he's back in the room. And as suspected, yes, it does work better on headphones. Well, speaking of Snare still, is there some kind of slapback delay on the Snare, or is that a sample misalignment?
There's no, they're all auto-aligned. So again, they're all using auto-align. And
see, I think you got to be careful with that because, and I would look into that because there's something going on as if I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It's as if there's a tiny slapback delay on the snare, and what you have to be careful with samples is with auto align. It will align to the very start of the sample, not necessarily the peak transient.
Right. Okay.
So I think at least that's what I've found. Okay. Sometimes, more often than not, I actually turn it off for the samples. And just have them as and where Logic has decided that they need to be. Which is
okay, can maybe go back to that and maybe see if that's maybe yeah. Because I always have this thing. See, because I pre-mix and I print them as like I stem them out and stuff. Print them as tracks and sometimes stems, but mostly tracks. Because I've got processing on it, I'm always like, how good is the delay compensation? Where if I've maybe got a compressor and an EQ and maybe something else, and I print that as how good is the delay compensation like at the very end. Like you could have them in time, but when you print them out and you bring them back into a new session, could the plugin processing sometimes just maybe nudge things out a little bit? I've always wondered that. I've always like wondered how much so if you have auto align and then you add loads of processing after it, can that processing then somehow maybe misalign the timing a little bit?
I mean, do you zoom in and check that the transients line up?
No, maybe I should start doing that. I think because I had auto line, I'm just like, oh, happy days.
If you remember, that's something Tim Palmer does. Like, he checks every single snare sample.
Yeah, maybe I'm best to do that then, because I'll go back to it and I'll listen to it. And but I think something that we'll talk about very quickly was I used D-Res, Emrich Electronic plugin on this. And
yeah, that's a great plugin.
Yeah, thank you. I was telling you to use it.
From WA Production, guys, if you want to check that out.
And it's only like $19 or something. So was that like 15 quid or something? But I used it on the strings. I used it on the trumpets. Only a little bit. On the strings, it needed it badly. So one thing Mark had said to me was, oh, I loved your processing on the strings. What did you do? And she genuinely, the strings is basically all D-Res. That's all I did. And there was one especially, I think it was the violin or something like that. And I had to use it 3 times because it was with it on and off. All you heard was like these horrible, noisy whistles and resonances, and it cleaned up the strings. And then because Emra's got like an exciter in there, it allows you. What it's like, think people try to say, oh, it's not a cheap soothe. They're doing 2 different things. It's very manual. The way you find the whistle yourself. It takes it out. You've got an octave switch, so you can figure out how much of the frequencies you take out. Because again, it's all related to octaves. Then you've got a harmonic exciter in there. So what Soothe can't do is you can't add back in the energy that you lost. So it allows you, because it's like saturation based, you can take out that muddiness and that kind of, really a lot of resonances, you lose the clarity of things. And then using the exciter allows you to bring it back. There's a compensate dial in there that you can just dial to taste. And then there's also a tone button The tone button, I said to him, I was like, it doesn't work all the time. There's times when I listen to it and go, I quite like that. But I've got a feeling possibly maybe the snare sound that we've got is maybe me experimenting. You and Mark sound different. That's why I'm surprised. If you're telling me that you and Mark didn't do anything, the two snares sound different to my ears, which is interesting.
There's some EQ on it.
Right, okay.
Whereas I think Mark literally left it.
Yeah.
It was Mark's was more similar to the dry stem, but yeah, I've added stuff. I mean, just the compressor and the reverbs have probably coloured it enough.
Do you ever think about taking out resonances in the snare? Ever?
Yeah, I do. I mean,
right.
Key problematic frequencies on a snare drum are typically 5 to 800. Again, the difficult frequencies in this snare drum were higher than normal, closer to 800, I think. Whereas, you can almost put on a EQ plugin and pull out 500 hertz by about 6 dB on a wide bell, and you've solved most of your snare drum sound problems.
Yeah, because I think what I struggled with the snares, what I kept on hearing, maybe it was because I was using D-Res, and I could... It's one of the things, see, once you start hearing the resonances, you can't unhear them. Like in the strings, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. But I think I kept on hearing this tail, this resonant tail, and the snares like a dung, 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 and every hit, and I kept on distracting me when I was in the mix. Like all I could hear in the snare was dung.
Do you know what that might have been?
Dung.
There were quite a lot of resonances in the tom mics. Did you gate those or manually gate them?
I used Melda M drum leveler. That's got a really good gate in it, and you can level it as well. So yeah, there was gating on it, but I just heard it, and I think because I kept on hearing it and it kept on distracting me. And I honestly, like, I'll tell everybody right now, I can't get, like, I'm past the point of getting that snare to work. For me to get that snare to work, I would need to, in my opinion, just get a brand new fucking snare drum. Because I don't like the snare in any of the mixes. I'm not going to lie. I think Ed done the best with what he had. I think Ed's done the best with what he can. But I just don't like the snare at all. And I think because I don't like the snare and I don't think it fits the track, it's really hard for me to mix something that I just don't resonate with. Because in my head, I'm like, I need to change it. So I put a Black Beauty in, and then this morning Ed was like, Paul, I would take basically down that Black Beauty. Why is it you asked me to take down the Black Beauty? What was it that you didn't like?
It's the wrong register for the track, but then I'm used to hearing my version of it where it's quite high up in the tonal register, as it were. So I don't think it added anything. Like I said earlier, to take it off, or suggested taking it off, because I think it's actually giving you more problems than it's giving you benefits.
But yeah, either way, right, I'll be struggling with fucking snare sounds till the fucking day I pop my clogs.
Oh, all of us will.
But let's move away from the snare, right? We've all accepted that, like...
Well, hang on, I've got more point... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, get away from the snare. That's what I said to Ed. Fucking hate speaking about drums. I hate speaking about drums. What did you like about it? Fucking hell, feel like I'm getting smashed here.
I didn't make any notes about that.
It feels like Ed's like fucking taking a roll of Mark for 15 minutes.
No... That's not the worst mix we've had submitted, Paul. Good bass sound. Mm-hmm. I think I preferred your bass sound. I think you got a fuller sound somehow.
Yeah, I tightened it, yeah.
But I kind of wanted a clickier kick to help.
See,
with
I think my kick is clickier than your kick, because usually, to me, this is how your kick
the clickiness gets swallowed up then.
Or mine just, I hear a bit of a slap in my kick. That's personally what I hear. Again, I don't know if this is a speaker and a headphone thing. I don't know. I genuinely feel that I hear your mix very different and you hear my mix very different. And it's fascinating. It is fascinating, because there'll be science, that there'll be reasons why we hear things so different, or it could just be subjective taste. But it's funny how I would say my kick has more slap and yours has more doof, 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 but then you hear it and think that your kick has more click in it. So it's fascinating. But there's no right or wrong answers.
Not necessarily click in my mix, but it's a tighter sound.
Yeah,
that I think works better in relation to the bass in terms of separation.
I think when I listen to it, I think the hard thing for me is I want to hear the slap. But I think it's because I'm always thinking about phone speakers. So I've not been liking my translation of phone speakers that much on shitty laptop speakers. And I think it's because I wasn't putting in enough click into the kick. Well, slap. We'll call it slap. So I was using kick shaper for this, and I kind of hit Emra's click, and it's like a transient shaper, and you're adding in more. I think maybe attack to the
there's thump and
top
click, isn't
end.
there?
Yeah, so I kind of added a bit more of that. So I hear a little bit more slap in my setup, but yours is very. I kind of hear your snare like it's got in the lower registers. I think mine's, yeah, you're right. My kick is kind of like a doof, 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 almost like a kind of a sub-synthy, kind of almost like a Warren Hewitt style kick, if anybody knows what I mean. Warren seems to kind of have kicks like that. They're very kind of fat and kind of like sub-synthy because we like that sound. Where I feel like yours isn't as like wide. It is definitely tighter, and it's tighter in a lower octave. I'd say like whatever, say like if it's, I don't know, 80, 60, whatever it is, it's tighter in there. And that's where I hear it punching. You've really got that low kind of
Yeah, the
octave.
fundamental of the
punching.
kick was about 110. I think.
Yeah.
So I boosted the octave at 55.
Right, okay, that makes
about
sense then.
like 1.5 dB.
Right, but I didn't do that. I just like, I just used fucking kick shaper and just fucking sculpt it.
Oh, I did that as well, yeah.
Until it sounds right. But that makes sense to me. That I would say my my kick is kind of a bigger sub-synthy kind of kick because I did utilize this.
Yeah, but stylistically, I don't think that was the right choice.
Right, but again, I think that's what I love about these things is that I love to hear, and I'm learning to be more objective as I get older. But I think it's very interesting to hear Ed's different stylistic approaches because obviously I hear it differently. So I hear Ed's mixing.
Oh yeah, mine aren't necessarily right, but
Yeah.
I just felt that was more of a funk track than a Spike Stent pop production.
Yeah. And again, when I hear Spike's ones, it's like I always hear his kicks to be a little bit like maybe more like mine and less like the way you've got it. But I love. I think I'm embracing the way other people do things because I think you learn a lot by the way other people hear things. So obviously, like I went for a more modern kind of sound, and I would maybe say if you kind of went more for like a traditional, like jazz. Not jazz, like funk sound, maybe 70s, 80s, because I was listening to
not that old, because there's so much click on the kick, because it's played, I can hear it's played with a plastic beater, and there's there's a resonant head on as well. In the 70s, it would have been a woolly felt beater and a tight
you
front
say
skin
that,
and
right?
no front head. And
you say that, but I was listening to an ABBA track in the car, because I don't know why, I fucking love ABBA. I was like, I've not listened to ABBA for ages. I just wanted to hear good, well-written pop songs. I was like, I could hear, I was like, oh, that sounds like kind of Ed's kick. I was like, it's like that kind of lowish, kind of really tight, like.
Yeah, so that, again, you can get that sound with a single head if you put the mic right behind the batter head. Where the beat is hitting it. That's how you can get that sound. All right, enough on drums.
I know.
Bollocks to them.
Hate them.
So good bass sound, good vocal sound. I wanted the brass more forward, but obviously you've heard how I've mixed the brass. They are very forward.
So forward. I know.
Because I felt like the
get
strings
that
were
forward there. Because I didn't want to. Like I listened to yours, so I was referencing yours because Mark was like, "This is the best mix we've had." I was like, "Right, this is how Ed's got it," and I know as much as I know this is the way Mark likes it. I'm like, if I'm going to put this on my portfolio, it's got to be the way that I like it. Because as much as we were laughing and joking, it's like Mark's essentially the client. I'm like, he's not the client. He's not paying me. So I'm like, I need
He's
to
paying
have
me.
Kim, what this is where we find is you fucking
I've paid
you
him
English
for that,
people
that
going
review.
against the Scottish boys. But yeah, I think I just kind of sat back and I was like, no, I don't really want. I didn't go down the route of trying to like treat Mark as a client. I just wanted to hear overall what his thoughts were, and then I was like, this is how I want to sound. So that whole mix is basically probably you would sit there and go stylistic, maybe genre style. A lot of purists and a lot of funk guys would be like, Ed's got that genre specific style, where I was like, I just kind of want to give it the way I want to do it, the way I hear it to sound, and I've listened to my references of how I want to go for more of a modern approach, and that's what I've went for. But what I like about this podcast is that me and Ed do give you such different styles, because I would like to think it might not be the case.
Yeah, if we were mixing the same way, it'd be boring.
Yeah, and I'd like to think, and it might not be the case, but But in the comments, people will be like, "Oh, I prefer Paul's. Oh, I actually prefer this. I prefer this and that." If everybody's like, "Oh yeah, like Ed's was the best," and I'm just like, "All right, okay." I just like, and Ed's won the internet award this week. But again, I'm not going to overanalyze it, because at the end of the day, I think you have got to be in a place where you go, "This is how I hear it," and I understand that Ed taught me a lot this week, where he was talking about how he listens to very genre specific references, and I always feel what I've never noticed before till now is that Ed does study the genre that he's in. I don't.
Well, I should do a lot more than I do. I mean, when I say study, I mean
You do more than me anyway.
Well, that involves putting on 1 or 2 tracks before I do a mix session of that style. Well, actually, to be fair, I do listen to stuff in the gym, and I'll go and listen to people's back catalogues or references that they give me. Yeah, so maybe not immediately prior to the session, but I do have my reference tracks that calibrate my ears for the studio. And if I don't listen to those, I end up in all sorts of places that aren't right.
But at the end of the day, it's like I was always going to go for quite of a spatial mix. Like, so
yeah, I know
if you listen
because
to my
you've got
mix,
Atmos in mind, haven't you?
I have. Yeah, so this is going to be my first Atmos mix. So I've intentionally used the M Action tremolo on fucking the synth parts, and
yeah,
I do think mine's has got. It'd be interesting if we took both mixes and did a mid-side matrix just to listen to the sides of my mix and the sides of yours. Because I do have a lot of side information and a lot of movement. The only thing I did like about this project was it was giving me a bit of scope to kind of, let's have a play about and let's give it what I think it should sound like. Where again, I've been working for a few clients and it is very like, here's my rough. And I know I've got to stick to that rough. I kind of, like, there's times where I could be like, try this, but maybe one thing. I kind of just go like 4 or 5 things. They'll be like, what the fuck have you done? But if I can just tuck maybe one thing in that I'm like, maybe they might like this. And it's one thing that they go, either like it or they don't. In this mix, I did loads of things. I was panning it that way and auto panning this and that. And with the synth bass, I was struggling because it was like, I tried having it down the middle. And then I was like, it's kind of feel like, because I feel that your synth bass is maybe, it's not, I don't think it's mono. I think it's maybe like this maybe. Like it's not fully wide, where I was like, come on, let's just make it fully wide. Because I listened to a Dua Lipa track and I was like, it sounds like they've got theirs pretty wide. But then I was struggling to get that. You can't, because when you put it fully wide, you lose the bass. If you have it more mono, you get more of that feeling of bass that I feel like yours or Mark does. But I just heard it like, fuck it, let's just make that section go out. That's what I think maybe I was doing different to you guys, is I feel that what you guys were doing was up and down. I was thinking left and right. Because if you think about like your like horns, you did do it better than my the mix I sent to Mark the first time around. You did do it better because it made me think, well, actually, my horns are too quiet. But even still, listening on the headphones, there's parts where I'm just like, the horns sound uncomfortably loud. Maybe how you heard my kick and the toms being uncomfortably loud. I felt the horns were uncomfortably loud on the headphones. But again, that's maybe a headphone thing, because obviously in speakers, you've got that space. Obviously on headphones, you've got them right here. So when I was doing my mix, I was thinking, right, I hear the level he's got. I'm just going to back that off a little bit. But at the end of the day, would you say that as subjective as both mixes are, that they're still two like really, really good mixes and we should be proud of those mixes?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They are, you know, for example, with the strings and all the brass being a priority, I felt like they each had their space to come forward. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think you had the strings always more forward and the brass always more back, where they actually needed to take it in turns. I mean, I did it with level. I just clip gained. I didn't even automate because I wasn't using any compression, so I wasn't hitting anything. And as long as I wasn't causing limiter problems,
do you not find that jarring though, from like a listener's point of view? I found it quite. I don't like stuff like that. I like things to sit in their place, and I like dynamics to be like, yeah, there might be something that you're like, oh, that's a bit of interest. But when you've got like, I feel like this is jarring, and it's like, it annoys me when I'm like, oh, I need to move this back, and then all of a sudden, that was there a minute ago, now it's there. And it's like, there's a few, I think it was a Billie Eilish track that I heard, and they kept on moving the tom, and I was like, that's where the fucking tom lives. You had the tom there like the last 4 hits, and all of a sudden you've moved it over here. And I'm like, what are you doing that for? And it's those, sometimes it's those, and that's why I struggled with this mix. My mix is My mix was trying to glue it together, right? I wanted the energy, which I think I lacked in the first one, and I got that. But I wanted to create a soundscape, and I know what it was, right? Let's be honest. I am just not the mixer for this specific mix. I'm not the right guy for this type of production. I'm not versed in like funk and stuff like that. I'm a guitarist, and I like my guitar sound, and I think I got my guitar sound pretty good, beefy, and like I felt maybe the other two were maybe a bit thin. Like I think Mark's was a little bit thin to my liking as a guitarist, but I wanted to get a little bit of girth in there. But yeah, I think you were maybe more suited to this end, because I think that this mix was one that needed more of a genre specific ear and somebody that was able to hear it and think, right, I'm not going to go and do a big spatial thing, and I'm not going to add this and try and add bells and whistles and create my own sound. You were just like, right, what's the sound of the genre? That's when I'm going to give you, almost like you were working for the artist. I wasn't working for the artist here.
Well,
like,
I have a self-criticism on that, because I actually think in hindsight my kit sound is a little bit too Blood, Sex, Sugar, Magic by the Chili Peppers.
Right, okay.
Little bit too much like that in hindsight.
Like, you think you've maybe stuck too much to like a certain sound?
No,
no.
Just the way it came out, I think it was a bit more of that ilk than it maybe needed to be. Like if you were going for a more soul band funk sound, it would be a lot drier, I think. So maybe I've over moistened it.
Can I ask you one question? I think it's quite important. Is I think me and you definitely are going on two different paths here, and I think both of them are completely valid. I'm feeling that I'm leaning into purposely wanting to have a kind of a sound of my own, one that's like still meets the kind of the genre specifics, right? So again, the low ends there, the basics, the fundamentals are taken care of. Drums are the right level, kicks are the right level, bass the right level, vocals are the right level, most of the instruments are the right level. But I kind of still want to be a mixer where you go to me because I've got a sound, and this will be something that may massively hurt my career, where I think that you're thinking more, I want to be as versatile a mixer as possible, almost like a very good tradesman. We're just like, look, I'm a joiner, but I could also be a carpenter. And again, I could work on this. As a joiner, I'm a fool. I could work on anything that involves joinery. But I'm just like, I'm specialist. I'm a specialist joiner. I do special stairs. I do big swirly stairs and houses and make them look really cool and stuff. What's your opinions on me? I could feel it in me that I want to kind of sit out as this kind of sound that you go for, compared to where I think you are, where you want to be more like a skilled tradesman, more like a skilled engineer, where you are more of an engineer rather than like, no, don't want to say gimmick, but let's face it, there's a lot of mix engineers that have a sound. At CLA, that basically built a career on the CLA sound, and you know that's why many people went to him.
And it worked very well for him for 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
And there's a lot to be said for that. And I was told when I was about 16 as a drummer, take one thing and get very, very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, well, hang on, if I take one thing and get very good at it, why can't I take another thing and get very good at it? And then I had numerous teachers who taught me every style under the sun. And what I learned when I got older and studied jazz properly, even though I don't play it, and I'd have to brush off some serious cobwebs now because I haven't played it for about 10 years, but studying that improved my ear, my dynamic awareness, coordination, musicality, awareness of arrangement and song structures in a way that other styles wouldn't have done. So although I don't play it, I studied it, learned what I could from it to apply to what I do for the majority of my day job at gigs, or weekend job even at gigs. So I would say with the mixing different styles, like anything, the more skills you have, the better your primary job will be. But then you are getting into that territory of, well, there's no way I can be an amazing EDM mixer, an amazing rock mixer, an amazing hip-hop mixer. There are guys who do it, don't get me wrong. You know, M crosses a lot of boundaries and a lot of borders, doesn't he? Or you just be the pop mixer that Spike Stent is, and just the guy for the most successful style of music, you know, of all time.
Because here's what my worry is, Ed. My personal worry is that if I just do this thing where I don't focus on having a certain sound, and I'm just somebody that could get a good mix. Like, yeah, I could do funk. I'm not the best at it, but I could do rap. I could do jazz. I could do rock. I could do country. I could do folk. I could do EDM.
But I think you'll gravitate towards your sound anyway. It's like I can.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I was literally having this chat last night with my bass player friend Stefan, who I've told you in the past has been a mentor about stuff. And, you know, I play in a very specific way based on my personality. I can try and play like other drummers on the scene in London. And in some ways, I'd have to worsen my technique to possibly sound musical in the way they play. Or in other ways, I just have to be a completely different person. Now, you know, you've got certain players and mix engineers who can be genre chameleons, and they're amazing. I've never felt like that's me. I've always had my sound, which is very big. And I think I mix the same way. It's very big and authoritative with the drums. Things are very much in your face. It's controlled but tight, and yeah, I just think that's my personality. So I think that would come through in any genre that I put my hand to. But it's about flirting with the variations and subtle differences of other genres that I think can only bring more tools into your toolbox for your main gig. So,
yeah, I think that's where we're going to go, and that's where we'll end this podcast, because I think this journey is going to be something that we continue to document over the time.
The journey will be never ending. I mean, look at him. He's still learning. And he's 20 years down the line from us. It will never end, and that's the beauty of what we do. If you love learning, do what we do, because I'm learning every day, and sometimes it's frustrating, like 2 weeks ago, and other times it's rewarding, like today. So it's a roller coaster.
No, tell me about it. But yeah, I'd just like to say again, thank you very much to Matt for his feedback, and again, Ed, props to you for going back and fixing the mix. Man. And honestly, I think you should be really proud of yourself that I know that a lot of people have submitted mixes, and I know Matt's a very honest guy, but to kind of hopefully that is the feedback that you need to sit there and go, I can do this full time, and slowly those demons can slowly get away from your head. Yes, you're not going to mix like that every time. You're going to get a client and you're just like, oh my God, this is just like not working.
I was thinking about this today. It might just be that on this mix, my set of skills with some tweaking, a fresh approach, all the stars aligned and it came together nicely. Like I said, the mix I've got to do tomorrow, doesn't matter what I do, I'm not happy with it. I can't.
Yeah.
But I've got more skills. That's where Chris Graham's resonating in my head, where what's the next domino? Well, this problem is presenting me with my next domino, which is I've got to learn to get that rock metal triggered sampled sound down properly. Because I lost a mix because I didn't have that down, and now there's an opportunity to get a mix. So it's, we'll see. It's never-ending learning curve if you have the energy for it, which after a slow start to the year, I'm finding the motivation and the energy again. So
I know
this is a good boost.
For anybody asking, next week we have a guest on. I'm not even told Ed this. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we've got Stephen Cole on. Now, I specifically want to do a video talking all about owning a studio and the reality of working in a studio environment. He records, produces, mixes, he does everything, and I really love his aesthetic. And he's a really, really hard worker. I've been watching him on Instagram for over maybe like 2 years. And I love his aesthetic approach. I love his work ethic. And we know many people that are like that in the UK, especially, grinding it out, doing this full time, getting the bands in, doing the hard work, and doing it without, the budgets of, say, your Blackbirds and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot to learn. I've got a lot of questions I want to ask, because obviously I'm nearly away to open the studio. So again, there's questions that I want to ask him and be like, what about investments here? What's your idea on that? And basically just ask somebody that's got experience of running a full studio, full time, recording, mixing, everything.
What are you going to do if he says you need a U87, you need NS10s, and you need an SSL?
Well, the NS10 I'm not bothered about, because I was in a studio in Dundee this week, and there for 2 hours, and Chris, there's a pair of NS10s there, and he's like, yeah, I know, I seen your video Or did he? Or did I ask him about it? Or I told him about it? And he was like,
no,
nah,
did he fit into the offended camp, or the Paul Third knows nothing camp?
Completely agreed with me. He was like,
Right, okay.
never use it. He was like, he's got Channel X and he's got Dynaudios. And he's like, I would never ever mix on them. And I was like, would you advise beginners to mix on them? He went, fucking no way. He went, but they are good as a reference check, because if anything sounds good on that, the old adage. But yeah, they sound horrible and I would never ever mix on them. He went Dynaudios, Channel X, sometimes the NS10s. I don't even think they were powered. I think they were just sitting on top of the AMEC console that's broke. But yeah, again, I'm getting to other studios as well.
Yeah,
and,
that's good. That's good.
What is? Oh yes, it's a week away, Ed. 1 week. Monday we'll have Stephen on. Then Tuesday and Wednesday I'll be in MSM studio and we'll be geeking out. And yes, he'll probably be telling me to think about the music, man. And hopefully I come away from that experience with a little bit of a better mixer, with a little bit of a fresh approach. And yes,
full of Chinese food.
I'm full of Chinese food. Quality. Get in. That man is loaded. He could at least buy me and I mean, Ed, I'm not joking yet. When I say I told him proper Chinese. I want the best Chinese London has to offer. I don't care how much it costs. You're minted. Buy me the best Chinese. And I'll guarantee you he's a wind-up merchant. He'll probably be like, he'll probably like get us a bag of prawn crackers or something and be like, it's the best London has to offer, mate. It's all you're worth. Well, we'll see. We'll let you know.
Well,
all right?
this will be a tenuous link to end this relating to Chinese food. But on that ginger bombshell, we'll end the episode there. It's been emotional. Thanks, Mark. Again, thanks for listening, guys. Feel free to like and share and comment away and get in touch in private. And we'll see you next week with another guest. Look forward to it. Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Paul. I like the ongoing joke about the snare sound.
I know.
Because it's just good fun. Just to annoy you, though, I'm going to listen through my X6.
Fucking got a top in and he's a fucking X6.
Yeah, all right, I'll turn the topping on.
Jesus Christ.
Should we leave this bit in the episode?
No, because you said I had to be nice about fucking Universal Audio, so...
Didn't say you had to be. I said you should be diplomatic. There's a big difference, Paul.